Hello, educators. Welcome to Roseville School Weekly Think Time. And the topic of our conversation this week is developing critical thinking. We'll be focusing on higher order questioning. What is our aim, you may ask? Our aim is to strengthen critical thinking and improve examination competence by helping us to intentionally design questions that move students beyond just mere memorization to analysis, explanation, justification, and problem solving. Let me begin with a quick challenge. What is photosynthesis, for instance? Most of us can answer immediately. Now, let me ask a second question. If plants stopped photosynthesizing for 1 month, what would happen to human society? Notice just what's happened. The first question tested just our memory. The second question forced thinking. And that is the main reason we're talking about critical thinking this week. So the whole idea is about developing minds, moving from teaching students to store answers to teaching students to think more deeply. And one of the greatest shifts happening globally in education today is this. The future will not reward students who remember answers. It will reward students who can think. Come to think of it, AI can retrieve information, Google can retrieve information, but the future belongs to people who can analyze, question, evaluate, create, solve problems, and make wise decisions. And that brings us to the most important question. What exactly is critical thinking? Critical thinking is the ability to carefully examine information, make connections, ask thoughtful questions, evaluate evidence, and arrive at reasoned connections and conclusions. In a simple way, critical thinkers do not just ask, what is the answer? They ask, why is this the answer? And why is this important? Because life itself is a critical thinking examination. Have you ever noticed? Life rarely asks, state 5 courses or do this. What life will ask you is this: what should I do? Should I trust this information? What decision should I make? How do I solve the problem? That is questions life will pose at you. So schools used to do what? Reward answers, but life rewards thinkers. And unfortunately, many classrooms unintentionally produce students who become very good at reading information, recalling information, but less comfortable with what? Reasoning. So we keep asking define, mention, state, list. These questions are not wrong. But if students remain there, we stop at memory. This is where higher order questioning becomes very important. Higher order questioning involves asking questions that require students to think beyond recall and move into deeper levels of what? Understanding. Questions that ask students to apply, analyze, justify, compare, evaluate, predict, and create. And this is where Bloom's taxonomy helps us. Think of Bloom's taxonomy as a ladder of thinking. At the lower levels, remember, you can just ask, tell me, understand, explain to me. Then students climb higher. Apply, show me, analyze, compare for me, evaluate, defend your position, create, design something. Many classrooms today stop at what? Tell me. But great classrooms continue to ask questions that will convince me. Okay, let us try this together. Recall question, for example. I can ask, what are the causes of flooding? Now let us rewrite the same question and compare with this. If you were the governor of Enugu State and flooding threatens schools, what practical solutions would you introduce and why? So you notice the difference between the two questions. The other one, the same topic, the same content, but you can see how the second question will take up your reasoning level. That is exactly what we're talking about. So the question changed, and then students had to do what? Reason differently, justify their answers, and solve problems while answering the question. And this matters because increasingly, WAEC and other external examinations are now rewarding students for interpretation, application, analysis, reasoning, and justification, not just memorization. So our activities this week are very practical. Design critical thinking questions aligned with examination as educators, and then rewrite to recall questions into analytical formats. So while doing that, use Bloom's taxonomy to align questions with WAEC style demands, encourage justification and explanation, because the person asking the question controls what? The thinking. And we, the educators, are the ones asking the questions. Remember, weak questions produces weak thinking. Powerful critical questions produces what? Powerful critical thinking and powerful critical thinkers. So perhaps our challenge this week is simple. Before entering classroom, change one question. Instead of what is the answer, ask why is it the answer? Aside asking why it is the answer, go further to ask how do you know? What evidence supports your answer or claim? Because at Roseville Secondary School, we're not just simply preparing girls who can answer questions, but raising young women who can think, discern, lead, solve problems, and transform society. Therefore, as educators, always ask yourself, my teaching and learning, is it structured such that my students can think? My name is Mrs. Ijomamu, Principal, Roseville Secondary School. Bye.